So this is Microsoft Excel, dates and times. I'm going to cover a decent amount of information. Some of it you may find not as important as others, but I think beginning to end, it's all good stuff to know if you work in Excel, especially if you're working with dates and or times. The majority of this is going to be focused on dates. We're going to touch on times, and I'll explain why once we get in to actually working with those particular situations. So let me switch over here to little me and Excel. And you'll notice that I have some dates here in column A, and those are the majority of what we're going to be working with. But I want to start with something that most people may not even think about when they're working in Excel. Excel uses what are called serial numbers when it works with dates and times. We format those serial numbers as dates and times so that we can recognize the information or the data that we put on the worksheets. For example, here in cells B19 and B20, I have two numbers. I have the number 1, and I have the number 2,958,465. That's a pretty big spread of numbers. Now remember I said Excel works with serial numbers. So let me convert these two numbers to what I consider long dates. We don't really need the day of the week in there, but we do need the full year. So the number 1 to Excel when converted to a date represents the very first date that Excel recognizes, and that's January 1st, 1900. The number 2,958,465 represents the date December 31st, 9,999. These are the front and back end of the date range in Excel. Okay. In other words, if I plug in a date here in this cell E19, and I'll just put in like 4/15/25, you'll see Excel automatically formats that as April 15th, the year 2025. If I try and put in something bigger than 9,999, so if I put 01/01 10,000, which is one day beyond December 31st, 9,999. When I press the Enter key, you'll notice it, first of all, first thing that I've noticed is it didn't shift my date to the right. Okay, when I put this date in, it automatically shifted it to the right. When I put this value in, it didn't recognize it as a date, so it didn't shift it to the right. So to Excel, this is just some numbers and hash marks that you put in to a cell. Does not recognize it as a date. Conversely, if I put in 03/20 1910, or if I just put the number 10, no, I put 1910. You'll see Excel automatically formats that as a date, and I can see that up here in my number group, right? Format as a date. But if I put in the number 03/20 1845, again, Excel does not format that as a date, doesn't move it over, doesn't convert it, okay? It's just numbers and forward slashes. It has no idea that you mean a date by that, okay? So the number 1, January 1st, 1900, 2,958,465 is the year 9,999. I don't think I'll be around beyond that to worry about what will come next. I'm sure somebody will, but by that time, Excel will come up with a new format for dates, I'm sure. So you may be saying, well, maybe they'll just put a decimal number on with that. Probably not, because decimals, for the most part, are recognized as time. So we'll just drop down here to these cells, and you can see that we have the number 0. Okay. Time are the serial numbers 0 to 1. Okay, and I'm going to almost say between 0 and 1, but it's not between. It's 0 to 1. Okay, whereas 0, if I convert this to time, is 12 a.m. So then 1, if 0 is the bottom end, 1 being the top end, if I convert the 1 to a time, then it also is 12 a.m. because that is one 24-hour period. So then that means 0.5 is going to convert to, any guesses? Yeah, exactly. It's going to convert to 12 p.m. It's half of a day. And if you want to break it down a little bit farther, 0.25 would be 1/4 of a day, or 6 a.m. So that just means that if I was to put 0.75 in there, that would convert to 6 p.m. The more decimals you add to this, the more specific the times become. For example, 0.12345, just some random number I plugged in there. If I convert that to a time, you'll see it converts to 2:57 a.m. It's less than 1, or less than 0.5, so we know it's going to be in the morning. Where in the morning? Hard to tell. So because Excel's serial numbers can be so vast, it makes it difficult to work specifically with times the way we can with dates. For example, we can add 30 to a date, and it'll add 30 to that serial number, and it'll just increase at 30 days because every number is a day, right? And I can show you that by if I put the number 2 here, and then if I convert that to a date, you'll see it's January 2nd, the year 1900. Okay, so adding 1 just adds 1 day. Whereas with times, you can't just add 0.1 and say, okay, well, that's a minute or that's an hour or whatever the case may be. It's way more specific than that. Okay, so that's why we're not going to work with times like we are with dates. I just want you to understand how Excel understands what we see. We see dates and times. Excel sees numbers and decimals. So if we have a combination number, whole number and a decimal number, and we convert that, you can tell that this is going to be a date, right? The first half of this is going to be date. The second half is going to be time. So if I convert that by, that's not going to work. Let me right click and format cells, and there's an option in here under date that includes the times right there, date and time. You'll see that that converts to February 24th, 2021 at 4:18 p.m. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. Okay, don't worry so much about times. Again, I just want you to understand how Excel looks at it. Let's look at some keyboard shortcuts for if you need to work with dates and times. Suppose you want a quick insert of today's date. Keyboard shortcut, hold down the Control key and press the colon key. That will insert today's date. If you want a quick time insert, you hold down Control Shift and then press the colon key, and it inserts the time. Okay, date and time. These are just static numbers. If I open this tomorrow, this is going to say March 9th, 2021, and this is going to say 2:10 p.m. They will not change. If you want dates and times that will automatically update, then you need to use one of these formulas. The first one is the today function, equals today, and then you go into the argument area. There are no arguments for this function, so we just close the argument, press the enter key, and there you can see it enters today's date. Visually, it looks exactly the same as this one. The difference is this is static text, this is a function. So if I was to close this workbook, save this workbook, close it, and open it tomorrow, it's going to say March 10th, 2021. Automatically updates. If you want the time, well, we can get date and time. Let me show you date and time. Date and time is with the now function, equals now tab, and again, there are no arguments with this, so we just close the argument area. And when I press the enter key, there you can see March 9th, 2021 at 14:11. If I look down here at my clock, it's 2:11, which is converts to military/European time, 14:11. If I just want the time, then I can do the same thing, equals now, close my parenthesis. I'll click the enter button up here on the formula bar so that my active cell doesn't move, and then I convert that to a time using the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-2. Okay, Control-Shift-2 converts a serial number to time. Control-Shift-# will convert a serial number to a date. Okay, so there's how you get that. So again, this will update every day when I save and reopen my book. This will do the same thing. If you just want the time to update, for example, here on this one, I just have the time. I want the time to update, every time I make a change, or every time I save it, or every time something happens. I can press the F9 function key, and it will automatically update the times. Okay? All right, so I'm going to back out. I'm going to transition to just the Excel worksheet so we can focus more on what's going on there and less about what I'm doing. And we'll start into the meat and potatoes of this, the actual, the functions, okay? So I'm going to scroll on up here, and again, you can see I have these dates here in column A. The first function that we're going to take a look at is the year function. And what the year function does is it takes a date. We're going to use this date for ours, and it's going to pull just the year out. So if you receive a worksheet and there's a bunch of information on it with different dates, times, years, whatever the case may be, and you just need to pull the year out for one reason or another, you can use the year function. If I type equals Y, you can see that the year function is highlighted in my list. I can press the tab key. It opens into my argument area. And the only argument we need for this one is the serial number. Where am I going to find, or what serial number am I going to use to determine the year? What serial number do you want me to pull the year out of? Well, for ours, the serial number is in cell A2. So I can type A2, close my parenthesis, click the enter button, and there you can see it pulls the year out of this date. If I change the year on this date, make it 2025, press enter. Because this is a function / formula, it's going to automatically update. Okay, so I turn that back to 2021. Again, automatically updates. If I want to copy this down so I can see the year for the rest of these without strict analyzing, I just grab that fill handle and I copy it down. And there you can see are all the years from the dates in column A. It's magic. It's not magic, it's Excel. Excel has the same type of feature for the month. If I just want to pull the month out of any given date, I type my equal sign and then MON, and there's my month function. I press the tab key to jump into the arguments area. Where is Excel going to find the serial number for this? Again, it's in A2. Close my parenthesis, click the enter button on the formula bar so that my active cell doesn't move. And there you can see that it pulls the third month out of this date. So if I wanted to fill that down, there is a shortcut for the fill handle. As long as there's something beside it, I can double click the fill handle and it'll automatically fill down until it comes to a blank. Okay, so just another little shortcut for you there. So what if I want not just the month number, but I want the month name? That's a little bit different because now we're not working with just a serial number. We need Excel to take that serial number and convert it into a word for us or convert it into text. So we're going to use the text function in Excel equals, type TE, there's my text function. I can press the tab key to jump into the arguments area. There are two arguments for the text function. The first argument is where is it going to get its value? Where does the serial number reside that we're going to use? So again, it's A2. We use commas to separate the arguments area. And you can see down below, if you don't work with functions a lot, you can see that the value right now is bold. But as soon as I press the comma, now the format text becomes bold, so that you know what it's wanting information, what argument is it looking for now. So if we're looking for the month name, there's two different ways to display the month name. There's the full spelling, and there's the abbreviated version. And all you do, if I want the full spelling, I put inside quotes 4 lowercase d's. That'll get me the full spelling. So if I close my parenthesis, click the enter button. Uh-oh. Oh, I got ahead of myself. Hang on. We're looking for the month, not the day. We'll get to that one. 4 lowercase m's. Silly me. Click the enter button. There we go. March. This is March 20th, not Monday 20th. Okay. If I wanted the abbreviated, again, I would simply enter 3 lowercase m's, and then I get the 3-letter abbreviation. I prefer the full spelling. It doesn't take up that much more space. I'll put my 4th M back in there, click the enter button, double click the fill handle to copy that formula down, and there you can see there's October, there's November, there's December, there's July. Everything I asked it to do, it does it. So year, month, month name. Now we have the day, the number of the day, right? This is over here we have March 20th, so we want it to pull the 20 out. And we're going to do that using the day function. So we start with equals DAY. There it is, day. Press the tab key to jump into the arguments area. My serial number resides in cell A2 again. Close my parenthesis, click the enter button on the formula bar, and there is the day number. Double click my fill handle to copy that down. And it pulls the days out. So there you go. Year, month, day, all in individual cells. This can come in handy if you're looking to calculate a certain number of days from a starting point. A couple of different ways you can work with this, okay? Now if we want the day of the week, and this is This is what I accidentally showed you last time. I used the text function again. My value is in A2, and then lowercase d's inside the quotes will give me the day of the week. So that's Saturday, and if I wanted the 3-letter abbreviation, I just back that off to 3 lowercase d's. Now I have the abbreviated day of the week. I'll stick to the full spelling, and then I'll copy that down using the fill handle. So all good stuff, right? You can pull the month out, the year, the day. You can convert the day to the day of the week. So if you wanted to find out what day of the week you were born, then you just make this your birth date, and it would tell you what day of the week you were born. For example, I was born March 20th, 1963. So I just changed this to 1963, press enter, and there you can see I was born on a Wednesday. Okay, so you can use this to find out any day of the week for any given date. Real easy stuff. Bring that back to March 20th, 2021. All right, so now we're going to calculate due dates. Real easy to do. Basically, all you have to do is add a number to the date cell reference. Because remember, Excel looks at this as a serial number, not a date. So if I add 2 to this, then it would take me to March 30th, okay? So I'm going to slide over here just a little bit. Let me just make this a bit smaller so we can see. Can you still see that all right? Okay, good. So I'm going to go to my calculated due dates. And again, pretty simple. Pretty simple. All I want to do is I want to add, and I'm going to do a formula so it starts with equals. I want to take this date, right, A2, plus this number in cell N2. Okay, A2 plus N2. Now, a lot of people will do this, and they'll say, okay, that's what I want to do. I'll click the enter button, and then I use my fill handle to copy this down. It's okay, so 45 days from March 20th is May 4th, and 45 days from July 7th is July 7th, and 45 days from November 11th is November 11th. Wait a minute. Something doesn't look right. And it doesn't, because this is your lesson on cell references. Excel basically has 2 types of cell references, relative and absolute. These up here are both relative cell references. Relative cell references come in handy when you copy formulas down. That's what tells Excel to, okay, change from this cell to this one, and from this one change to this one. So as I come down, you'll see that A2 changes to A3, A4, A5, A5, A6, A7, so on and so forth. But what else is changing? This N column reference. There is nothing in cell N8 to add to A2. So that's where we run into problems. So I'm going to undo, and all we need to do is make this N2 reference an absolute reference. And the easiest way to do that is with your insertion line touching part of that reference, whether it's the end, the middle, or the beginning. You press the F4 function key, and Excel adds a $sign before the column reference and a $sign before the row reference. So that as I copy this down, it's going to go to A2 and then back to N40 or N2, A3, N2, A4, N2, so on and so forth. This reference will not change. So let me click the enter button on the formula bar, double click my fill handle, and I'll just pick one at random. Here you can see that A9 plus N2, that N2 value did not change as I copied it down. Okay, that's kind of important. If you do one of these, always check your numbers. Don't just do it and assume that everything is going to be good. Do it and then check your numbers like I did, right? I checked the first one, made sure it was good, checked the second one, wait a minute, that ain't right. Third one, that ain't right either. Then you go back and reanalyze your formula and you try and figure out what you did wrong. Okay? All right, so the next question on this is, well, I don't know what day of the week these fall on. And if my due date falls on a Saturday and a Sunday, or a Saturday or a Sunday, then I know I'm going to have to bust my butt before Friday to get that thing done. So let me show you how to add the day of the week to an existing date. We're going to create a custom date format. I'm going to select all of the cells that I want to change the format of. With my mouse pointer inside that selected area, I'm going to right click and then select Format Cells. I'm going to come down here to Custom, and it's real easy. All we have to do is add 3 lowercase d's and a space to the beginning of that date. So day means the abbreviated day of the week, and we have the month, the day, and the 4-digit year. Click OK. So now we have the day of the week as well as the rest of the date. So you can see here I have a Saturday date, and here's a Sunday, and here's another Saturday, and there's a Sunday. These kind of mess with me because I know I'm going to have to work to get these done. I'm losing time to get those done, right? Because they fall on a weekend. I just highlight those real quick. But you know what? I don't work weekends. Do you work weekends? Most people at CTC don't work weekends except for our fantastic police force and a few maintenance guys. So if you don't work weekends, you're losing a lot of time because this is including weekends. We told it just go 45 days from this date. Again, how many of those days are weekends? We don't know. You'd have to sit down with a calendar and look at it, right? No, not really. There's another way to calculate dates, and we're going to calculate due dates based on working days. Okay, based on working days. We're going to use the workday function. If I type equals work, you'll see the workday function pops up there. I'll press tab to jump into the arguments area. This one's pretty easy to figure out how to use as well. Where's my start date? Well, my start date is here in cell A2. Then I put a comma so that I can enter the next argument. The next argument is days. How many days from that start date do you want me to go? Well, I want you to go 45 days. So again, you got to remember, if you're going to copy this formula down, you need to make that reference absolute. So I'll just press the F4 function key while I'm here. And you can even include holidays. Now I have a bunch of different years, so on and so forth here. I'm not going to take the time to list all of the holidays, but I do have a couple listed over here. I have Christmas and New Year this past, okay? So Christmas 2020, New Year 2021. So here in my holidays, I'm just going to click and drag to select that range of cells, those two. And you'll see it puts O2 and O3 in my formula. Again, these need to be absolute cell references. I don't want this to change as I copy the formula down. So I'll make those absolute cell references. And then I'll close my parenthesis. Oops, hate it when it does that. Close my parenthesis and click my enter button up on the formula bar. So this is one of the reasons I showed you at the beginning how Excel works with and recognizes dates and times. This doesn't mean I did something wrong. This simply means that Excel didn't convert my date to a date format. So a couple of different ways you can do that. You could do the Control-Shift-#, and that'll convert it to a date, but that date doesn't match the rest of my dates. So I'll come up here and I'll use this drop down and I'll convert it to a short date. Now it matches, okay? So again, that doesn't mean I did anything wrong. That just means Excel didn't automatically convert it to a date. I can come up here, convert it to a date myself. Okay? So while we're here, let's go in and add the day of the week, just like we did before. We'll go to Custom. We'll go to the beginning of the type and put DDD for date. Click OK, and you'll see that's now, instead of being due May 4th, it's not due until Friday, May 21st. Okay, because now we're basing it on working days, not just days. Don't cheat yourself out of time. So I'll double click this fill handle and copy that down, and you'll see that no more do we have any of these falling on a weekend. So instead of this being due Sunday, September 26th, now it's not due until October 14th. Big difference, okay? Big difference. So if I need to change this to 90 days because my time frame changed, then I just change that, press enter, and it automatically updates all of these dates. If you have multiple dates, then you can have a couple different due in days and just reference each one to the corresponding cell based on how many days you have. Okay. Now, we got all these dates in here. Let me unhighlight those because they're not important anymore. So I'm still having to go through here and I need to calculate if any of these are overdue. So what I'm going to do over here in column L is another very simple formula. Okay. I'm going to subtract well, before I get into that, maybe you are on the police force and maybe you only get 1 day off a week. If that's the case, then instead of using the workday, you'll want to use the Workday International, workday.intl, because the difference with that is it gives you the option to select a start date. You tell it how many days, we'll go 90 days here at N2, absolute. But then it also gives you the option to select your weekends. Maybe Saturday and Sunday aren't your traditional weekends. Maybe you get Friday and Saturday. Maybe you get Thursday and Friday. All these different options are going to give you different turnouts for your calculated due dates. So if you only have 1 day off, maybe Sunday is your only day off, then you make that 11. And then you can add your holidays. Okay, we'll add our holidays here. We'll make that absolute. Close our parenthesis, and we'll accept that with the enter button. So now it changed it to Saturday, July 7th. Okay, again, big difference. Big difference when you only have 1 day off. Okay, so that's Workday International. Okay, Workday International. All right, so back to our calculated due dates. If I want to figure out whether or not one of my due dates is overdue without really having to look at the date. Okay, there's a couple different ways I can do this. You can use a simple formula, and since this, right, this is today's date. I got that function in there for today's date. All I really have to do is subtract the calculated due date from today's date to find out how many days overdue it is, right? So equals this cell reference minus this cell reference. Very simple. Again, I got to remember, if I'm going to copy this down, this is just a single cell. I need to make this reference absolute. So I'll click here in the M2, press F4, make it absolute, accept that. So this negative number means that it's not yet due. It's due in 136 days. So July 23rd is 136 days from now. Okay? So I'll double click and you'll see that this doesn't work. Well, yeah, it did. Double clicked because it recognized cells over here. Okay? So this particular date is 119 days overdue. This one's 495. This one's in really bad shape, 6,000 days overdue. So yeah, negative numbers aren't due yet. Positive numbers are overdue. Let's make this just scream overdue. And we're going to do that by applying conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is one of my favorite things to do in Excel just because it makes my job easier when I'm working on worksheets. So I'll select the area that I want to apply my conditional formatting to, and that's going to be basically all the numbers that I have here, plus these extra columns that we're going to get to in just a minute. And then I'll click the conditional formatting button up on the ribbon. I'm going to drop down and click on New Rule. I'm going to use a formula to determine which cells I need to format. And there's a bit of specifics on this that you have to remember. It's going to be a formula, right? We said use a formula. So it's going to start with an equal sign. And we're going to have it look at column L, okay, column L, and determine whether or not that number is bigger than this number. And the part you need to remember is we're going to copy this down. So we need that part of the reference, the row reference, to be relative. But because it's using this cell as my reference cell, as I copy it over, the row number or the column letter will change if I don't make the column absolute. So this is what's known as a mixed reference. I'm going to do a $L, okay, so that the column is absolute, but I want the row to be relative. Okay, column absolute, but the row I want to be relative. So I want to check and see if that value in column L is greater than N2. Okay, and it has to be absolute, just like we made it absolute earlier. Okay, because you don't want it to change as you copy it down. We're going to change the format, and we're gonna light this place on fire. So we'll start by changing our text color to a light gray. Then I'm going to go to the Fill tab, and I'm going to go to Fill Effects. And I'm going to make my top color orange and my bottom color red. Like I said, I'm going to set this place on fire. Click OK. That's what it's going to look like. Click OK again. That's what it's going to look like with the text. Let's go in and make that text bold and italic while we're here. Bold and italic so that the text just shows up a little bit better. Click OK, and now you can see at a quick glance which of these particular due dates are overdue. If I change my due dates back to 45, you'll see it automatically updates to include the conditional formatting. Okay? If I change that, maybe the boss has granted me, a reprieve and give me 120 days. And I change that, and it automatically updates all cells, including the conditional formatting. So it just, it makes looking at things easier. You don't have to sit there and look at the date and, okay, what's today's date and what's this date? And you don't even have to go through this and say, okay, that one's due in so many days, that one's overdue, that one's not due, that one's not due, that one's overdue. Quick glance, right? Quick glance, 90-day due. There you go. You know which ones are overdue. Okay. Okay, so next we have the week number. If you want to find out what week of the year a specific date falls on, then you're going to use the week number function. Okay, there's my week num function. Press tab to enter into the arguments area. My serial number is in A2. And then the return type, basically what that is what day do you want to start on? What day of the week does your week start on? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever the case may be. If you don't add that second argument, then it's going to default to Sunday. Okay, you don't have to add that second argument. Let me show you. Anytime you see an argument in square brackets like this, that means it's not required. So I can close this out, close my parenthesis, click the enter button, and you can see that March 20th comes on the 12th week of the year. And if I double click to fill this down, there you go. Okay. Real simple, real simple. Now, what if you get a worksheet and it has the year and the month and the day all separate, but you want to combine them into one cell for whatever reason, easier to look at. You want to sort by date. Okay. To sort this by date, I would have to do a three-way sort. I'd have to sort by year, then by month, then by day. To where if they were all combined, then I can just sort ascending or descending, and it'll put them in order based on the date. So you can put all three of these elements, all three of these date elements back together or together using the date function. When I tab into the arguments area, you can see it has three arguments. The first one is the year. Well, the year is here in cell B2, comma. The month is here in cell C2, comma. And the day is here in cell E2. Close my argument area parenthesis, click the enter button on the formula bar, and there you can see it puts the date elements all together into a single date format. So far, so good. We're working well. I don't see any questions. Questions. I don't. I'm trying to pull up my window here. Nope, I don't see any questions. So that makes things easy. So let me come back to what we're going to look at now are a couple other ways to calculate dates. Remember, we use these to calculate these due dates, specific days or specific number of days, 45 days, 90 days. I could make this 10 days. And it'll automatically update everything for how many days due. But what if you want to calculate how many, or calculate a future date based on the number of months, not the number of days? Because, well, some months have 30 days, some have 31 days. One of them has 28, or if it's a leap year, 29. You can't sit down and calculate all of them. Okay, well, this month has 31, this one has 30, and the next one has 31. That's 92 days. No. Way too much work. Let's say I want to calculate training end dates. And our training period for this department is 3 months, and the training period for this month or this department is 6 months. okay, different number of months as we go down through the list, okay? For that, we're going to use what's known as the E date. So equals E date, that's end date, okay? Tab into the arguments area. The start date, we'll use the start date of J2, since it's here, it's handy. And then a comma, and it wants to know how many months out do you want to project. So this is my number of months, Q2. Close my argument area, click the enter button. Again, it didn't convert it to a date. Doesn't mean anything's wrong, not a reason to freak out, not a reason to delete that and try again. That's a serial number. You simply convert that serial number to a date. So 6 months out from, or I'm sorry, 3 months out from March 20th is June 20th. Okay, again, it's based on months. So we can fill that down. And there are all of our training end dates based on the number of months we have set for training. And it'll even calculate past dates. You just enter a negative number for your months. Okay, so this is a -3. We want 3 months before November 23rd. So that takes us to August 23rd. Same thing for these two. Those are past. I entered them as negative numbers. Now, if you want to find out the end of the month, we're going to use a function called EO month. Okay, EO month equals EO and M, and there's end of month. I press the tab key. Same arguments as E date, our start date, J2. And you can type these in. You can click the cell to enter them. You can capitalize the letter. You can not capitalize the letter. Excel doesn't matter. It's going to automatically capitalize everything anyway. So there's our start date, and our month, again, is going to be here in Q2. Close the argument area. Click the enter button. Convert it to a date. I can fill this as serial numbers, okay, and convert it to date after the fact. It doesn't matter. So these are all the end of the month, okay, based on 3 months, 6 months, 4 months from our start date, which we're using J, column J here as our start date, okay, end of month. And if you ever need to calculate the beginning of the next month, real easy. You take this same formula and you put it in here, but you add -1. I'm sorry, +1. +1. And that'll take you 1 day beyond the end of month, which will be, the first of the next month. So again, I'll convert that to a date. Use my fill handle, and there is the first of the month following. So you can figure the first of any month. You go so many months out, and then you add 1 to the end of month, and you got your first of the month fixed. Okay. All right, I think I have time for one more bit of information. Now what I want to do with this one is I want to find out if this date falls within this date range. Now sure, it's easy enough to look at this and on a small list like this, figure out whether or not the dates fall within those date ranges. But what if you're working with hundreds of dates or maybe even thousands of dates? Okay, then it's not going to be so easy. So for that, you want to use a function. And the function we're going to use for this is we needed to look at two different observations, if you will. It has to check and make sure that this date is greater than or equal to this date, and it also has to check and make sure that this date is less than or equal to this date. So for that, the key word in there is and. We're going to use the and function. And all it wants for the AND function are your logical evaluations. So the first logical evaluation will be this number greater than or equal to this number. I'm saying number because Excel works with serial numbers, right? So that's all it's doing, is checking to see if this date serial number is greater than or equal to this date serial number. And we put a comma because we need a second logical evaluation. We need to check and see if this number is less than or equal to this number. So that's all you need. Okay, we don't need a third and a fourth and a fifth because there are no more. There's just those two. Check and see if it's in between these two dates. So I'll close my parenthesis. Now, something you need, this is again going to be one of those, if I'm going to copy this down, which I am, I'm going to compare all of these dates against these two. So my D and E references need to be absolute. So I'll click here in the D35 and make it absolute. I'll click in the E35 and make it absolute. I'll click the enter button and I'll copy that down, and you'll see it gives me true or false response. So I can stay with that true or false response, or I could wrap that AND function in an if function. And I know this has gone way deeper than anything you expected to hear today, but it's easy once you get used to it, okay? So I want if, and I'm going to tab to move over into my arguments area. And I go all the way to the end because this is my first if, okay? So if this is true, okay, if either one of these evaluates to true, then I want it to display yes. Okay, this is my value if true. If this evaluates to a true, then show me yes. If not, then show me no, as opposed to true or false, okay? Either way. You click the enter button, double click the fill handle, and there you go, yeses and nos. Now, if I wanted to, I could add some conditional formatting to this. So with all of the, and this is just going to make it easier to determine which ones fall within those date ranges. With all of these cells selected, I'm going to click the conditional formatting button. I'm going to click on new rule, and I'm going to tell it to format only cells that contain. I'm going to come down here to my edit rule description. I'm going to change the cell value to specific text. And I want it to find cells containing the word yes. And I want you to make those green fill with a green font. Okay, so I don't even have to read words for this. I just look for the colors. So there you go. I can see that this date and this date are the only one of the series that I have that fall within those two dates. Okay? All right. Well, I think this takes us to the end of our time.